We have a guest in the studio. He is Brother Isaac Andabwa, the National General Secretary of the Kenya National Private Security Workers Union. He's here so that we talk about this NSSF story and what the unions have been discussing. They were with the president yesterday. He'll tell us about that. Let's welcome him, CT, with the day's proverb.
Yes, our proverbs for this week come from the country of Zambia, whose capital is Lusaka.
And whose national dressing is Kaunda suit?
Actually, it's interesting because the gentleman who presided over that country as its first president at independence, yes, Kenneth Kaunda, had, well, the garment that he wore that represented the suit was a garment that was actually worn by Chinese officials. It is, if you look at how the Chinese dressed, forget the traditional dressing, these collarless garments that look like a coat. Now, he wore it frequently enough. So that's where the term counter suit came from. Because it is him who was recognized as the person who wore it the most. Yes. So if you like, and if you're a Kenyan, then please claim by all means that the counter suit was invented in Zambia. Okay?
It's their national dress, the national suit. Higher. The proverb?
He who paddles two canoes sinks.
He who paddles two canoes sinks.
Yes.
Higher. Okay. Brother Isaac Andabwa, good morning.
Morning to you.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
The hot seat of the Situation Room. Make yourself comfortable. It's going to be a smooth ride. That proverb, let's start from there. He who paddles two canoes sinks. Do you get it?
I get it. I think what he says, I can also translate in my mother tongue, Luya. If you cannot prepare 2 sufurias of ugali at the same time, you must prepare one first.
You have to say it in your mother tongue.
Shonyala ku khwaliga tse nyongo tsibele bushimata olukanga ndala kwanza na yakabwe khandi khoranga indi.
What's the word inside all of that for ugali? What's inside? What's ugali?
Ugali is a staple food for.
No.
Yes.
The word
Ugali in your Kiluya dialect.
Yeah.
It's just bushuma. It's bushuma.
Okay. Why is it that you union people call each other brother and sister?
Yeah, because we need to work as a team, and we are taking that one from the biblical understanding. Like my sister who is sitting on my left, we are working towards a common interest in terms of assisting those ones we represent. So first, what comes out clearly in terms of a brother or a sister is brotherhood and not enmity. So we need to work first. If you want to succeed, you need to embrace teamwork. And you look at oneself as a brother or a sister, because that is the ultimate objective.
It is a solidarity.
Solidarity.
I see. Sisandu, umesikia?
Yeah, got it, brother.
Okay. Now, the Kenya National Private Security Workers Union. Tell us about that union. Who does it represent?
First, before just I go directly to what you are asking, I think from my school, I joined the U.S. Embassy government as a private security officer. I've never worked in another profession. So in American Embassy, we were being paid quite well as compared to the other indigenous cards. So I had a dream of changing the industry into a professionalism. You remember there was a time when I was a serious Kanu fella, youth in terms of political.
You were a youth winger.
Yeah, when he was still there. And those days we did not have the handouts that are now flowing these days. The biggest thing was the T-shirt, Kanu T-shirt. Once you have a T-shirt, you're home and dry. So there was somebody who gave out bus that lawyers are watchmen and the cooks.
That was Kamoda.
Yeah, when I was still in Form 2. Then I said one day I must change this for better. Because I believe private security or a private card or that watchman is just a job like another job. So what was lacking in Kenya, it was a professionalism. So I came up with a Kenya National Private Security Workers Union. That was in 2007. and with the intervention of Kotu and the Ministry of Labour, we really got the same registered. And the issue, the objective was actually to uplift, to address the general welfare of the private security workers in the Republic of Kenya, not the watchmen, as we used to call them.
So the correct term is not watchman.
Yeah, I've done away with the issue of the watchman. That was the first assignment. And I went to court and I challenged, that was a colonial terminology that was giving people negative perception about the job. And we have private cards in America. I was there. Recently I was in Italy. We have private security officers, and they ought to be respected. So you see some of these names that we call ourselves, they also generate and give people bad idea about ourselves. So this name that we call ourselves have meaning. So if you call somebody a watchman already, that is a negative
derogatory.
Issue. Yes,
you find it derogatory.
It tells you what kind of salary is going to get as compared to others.
And that's what you felt when you were informed too.
Yes, civilization.
And you heard Kamodo saying,
yes,
cooks and watchmen.
Yes.
And that time you were informed too.
I was informed too by that. Yeah.
Why did you choose this profession?
I did not choose. This profession is for lawyers automatically, because we have never been in the government anywhere. We don't have those even a connection. We don't have. So you will find 60% are lawyers. So it's our professional. It's a lawyer professional. And also another element in terms of that, lawyers, they are very honest. You cannot, you do your own research. You will find that when you leave a particular tribe in a residence job, and the Muslim goes to America, when he comes back, there is nothing in the compound. But the lawyer will still there, stay there, plant some sukumas there. You see, it becomes his or our home. So we are good for that, because we are honest people.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I understand. I think now is when the penny has dropped, and I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's...
Hey, okay.
So are you saying that because of the character?
Yes.
That is why then this group of people is then destined for this work?
Lawyers are the most honest people when it comes to the issues of their security.
Okay.
Yeah. Even you can trust them with your property. When you go do your own things there, you'll finally find them the only just still guarding.
So then you can say that Judge Kamodo was right.
No.
Judge Kamodo's comment was derogatory, and it was meant to be insulting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, he was not.
He was not looking at it from this point of view.
No, it was not.
All right.
You know what I'm saying. There is no difference between private security officers and the police. And what comes out clearly in terms of security is honest and doing the work professionally.
Right.
So what we needed to do for the cards, to uplift them, to repackage them,
yes,
to come to the level of professional. That was my interest.
That was the interest of the union.
Yeah.
So now, just from what you're saying, I'm hearing that then that is what you went on to do. So how did you do that? Because essentially you're saying something that may have then been informal. You need somebody. I remember seeing you walk through particular neighborhoods and you see some 10 or 15 people being lined up and being told to march, and that's how you then are trying to install some sense of security responsibility
and discipline.
But from what you're saying is that now you are professionalizing it. How exactly have you been able to do that? And now, then using the union, how have you been able to do that?
I want to say I've achieved a lot. The industry is not the same that I found. Once I came and I mobilized the workers to join and formed the union, I had a dream. And the first dream, you cannot professionalize anything without first going a training, a basic training. You cannot become a media personnel like yourself without undergoing a particular training. So that one was lacking. You cannot become a farmer or a qualified doctor without undergoing a training. So I advised the government, we need to have an academy for the private security officers. And we need again to dispose the issue of watchmen to bring some civilization. So the best way you can professionalize a particular interest is through institution. So that is on my agenda, and in fact, I have done the proposal to the government. Some people misunderstand our job, because our job is to complement the national security agents. We are not police, we are not JSU, we are private security officers, and they are found across the world. Therefore, people misunderstand. Like I heard somebody talking about the private security becoming national service. You see, that's how we miss the point. So, the private security's role is to complement the national security agencies. And you cannot do that without the knowledge. You cannot do that without being empowered. You see? So, we began a serious fight, reform agenda. And I lobbied several times. And I thank the Jubilee government because now we are what you call the Private Security Regulation Authority. Have you heard about the same? The one that is led by Fazul Mohammed.
Yes.
Yeah, that is my baby.
That's the one that now registers all the private security.
There is nobody who actually there is nobody who actually aggressively campaigned for that other than the Kenya National. We worked all over, we interacted with all the government stakeholders, and we were supported by employers. Now we have Private Security Regulation Authority, which is supposed now to undertake the framework in the industry by professionalizing the industry, regulating the employer, regulating the investor, and regulating the private security officer himself or herself. Therefore, I want to tell you something. You have had a lot of noise coming from NAT. The always conflict between the Teacher Service Commission and the
National Union of Teachers.
The NAT.
Or the teacher unions.
Yes.
They're various.
What is the conflict? The conflict is the Teacher Service Commission, which is an employer, wants to regulate the teachers. And that's not their role. And vice versa to NAT. That is why we say we must have in private in teacher teaching fraternity, we must have a regulator to regulate both the employer and the employee and the teachers. You also find a lot of noise coming from the nurses.
From the medical health fraternity.
Yes. The problem is the same thing. So as much as people are calling us watchmen, we went ahead and we have a regulator in the name of Private Security Regulation Authority. And that was a very serious landmark win. So now we have a CEO in the office of the regulator who is now supposed to address all those concerns.
So if the workers have concern, they go to the regulator.
That is the regulator, that's the government.
If the employer, the companies have concern, they go to the regulator.
Yes, and how serious is the private security? You see, I began by talking about the name. The name means a lot. Whether it's private security or public security is paramount. You don't choke around the private security because most of the intelligence information on the ground, it comes from the private security. So we need to have that missing links. That miscommunication from the private security to the police and other security agents actually linked up. Because, for example, you are walking in town, Nairobi, and you see a lady being mugged or somebody doing a bad thing, maybe criminal kind of activity. We are supposed, because we are all over. We are in the mashambas, we are in the construction, we are in the installations of government, all over. You see, and I can also shock you about the number. The number of private security, all the security combined agents cannot match it. It's around 800,000.
800,000.
Yeah, and 1 million.
These are the ones that are registered.
The ones that are operating in the Republic of Kenya. So what we need to do, just to breathe hope in them, and then organize them properly, and give them the catches, tools, equipments of working. You will never hear about the issue of the terrorists in Kenya. Why? You cannot hear about terrorism. You cannot. If we can have a proper linkage between ourselves and the national security agents. And we can only achieve that when you have an organized way of doing things. And that is why I went for the regulator first. Because when the regulator is there, then the other ones will follow. Then number two. As I have said, that we cannot professionalize any industry or any sector without having an institution. We need to have what we call a private security academy somewhere in the Republic of Kenya as a reference point for two reasons. To make our job professional, to remove that perception. You remember
Watchman,
which is very wrong. Yeah, that is again demoralization. And we need to motivate them. So, if they are complementing national security agents, then they are very much close to the heart of the government. Hii mambo naona watu wanaenda sikii kule wanawao kule ati wana recruit maskari sikii kila mwaka naenda rudi, na wala ambao wana recruitiwa wanaenda wanasoma alafu they disappear again from from the force because of the challenges here and there. We can fill that gap if we are properly trained, so that the police and other national security agents go and concentrate on the bigger job. Na hii mambo ya carding hii BIP, we can do it, and we can do it beyond better than the police. Yes, because security does not mean you must carry the gun.
Sure.
Security means the way you pass information urgently from point A to point B for further action.
So now you're advocating for a private security training academy.
That is number one. That one is we are demanding, we are not even requesting, because how do we handle the professionalism issue? Because as a KK,
and you want to be a government agent, you want to be
and we need to have what we call a single curriculum, just like the teachers. And we need to have also those cards to be have like overall, like
proper ranking.
Ranking. Okay. You see, ranking, what we call a career path. You cannot remain there as a card for 50 years and you retire, you are still a card. That is the motivation. That is what I'm doing for the private security industry. Then the other thing, when you organize people like private security, like 800,000, what has it been? It means, again, we need to address the issue of the empowerment. Employers have several circles, but those circles are for the employers. Even they contribute to what we call shares, they are not assessing the loans. You can know them in a metro and so forth. We need to have a serious sectoral circle for the industry to empower people, because their salary is peanuts. And the best way to empower your people is through the savings and cooperative. You see, and that is I'm happy yesterday when I was at Ikulu with my boss Katibu Atuli. That was again the dream of the president. He wants to empower the Kenyan lowly paid workers.
Yeah, security is a major issue.
Yes.
There often has been the sentiment that those that are available are not adequate. Now, when I say adequate, I mean in numbers. It's just not enough, because there's an internal security situation. I mean, when we see that there've been security lapses here and there, the question is who feels what? What in your mind, or rather from your experience and practice, is necessary in terms of training? Because if you're able to knock down what is necessary, then perhaps it's then easier for those who would be in a position of authority to say, okay, this is the kind of academy that we are going to set up. And then do you have enough people to instruct, so that somebody's going through 9 months? Are we going through the same process that the folks at Kiganjo go through when they're going through training?
You know, my sister, the problem is not what you are saying. We have more than enough security personnel in the Republic of Kenya to take care of this country. But the problem, the leadership. You might have a very brilliant idea, but nobody take you serious. Now, you see, what you say, the government does not need to pay the private security officers, because those are private security officers, they're not public.
Let me track back just a little bit. My question is, you're talking about the institution of an academy here to train.
Yes.
So if you want to train, does that mean that there are people who are raw and fresh who have no idea what it entails to operate within the security guidelines? Or do we need these numbers that you're talking about, which are adequate? Do they need a refresher course? What would this academy be doing?
Maybe to be specific, training is a continuous process. Even education is a continuous process. Therefore, in terms of the security, we need to do what we call a refresher courses. Maybe every 3 months, or you go back for refresher course, so as to acquaint yourself with the emerging, because security keeps on emerging here and there, and challenges. But I'm saying those ones, which the 800,000 that are there
currently, they have
gone in various training centers like KK has got his. The chief forces have their own training. But what about the curriculum? What they are training is something that can actually fix the challenge of the current time.
Okay.
So we don't have a permanent issue. Some issues which are security concerned keep on emerging. So which means even after you have been trained properly and you are on assignment, you must create time to go back for refresher course. Sure. And that's what we have been doing in American Embassy Security, because I used to work for the American Embassy. Yeah. So we can even copy the American Embassy style of training to keep these people aligned to the emerging issues and alert. And like for example, you have seen you have a card, Eric. You have a card at your place.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden you find the same card again, washing your car. You find the same card again, irrigating cutting grass and doing. You see, that's not what we want. We want those people to be responsible. If it's about manning this, they are security officers. No,
so that's all they do.
Yeah,
because you actually even go into some financial institutions, you find the security guard is the one who's being used to do the walking around, so customer walks in, unataka form gani?
Yes.
Shika hii form, jaza hapa. Is that the job
maybe to drive the point home. A private security officer manning a hospital, and a private security officer manning Equity Bank or any banking institution. A private security officer taking care of our residents. Those people are supposed to be given different training. You see, because the business at the hospital is about first aid, and some other things related to the health issue. And then the issue of banking, what is in the mind of the private security at the bank? Robbery.
Yep.
Yes.
You see, so training, my sister, is not cast on the stone. It's a continuous
Indeed.
in terms of what you are doing, where are you assigned to work?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask another question. After the threats of terrorism in the country, we saw that there was this heightened, when you're entering into a building, there are guards who are checking on and things like that. Would it link to the kind of thing that you're speaking of in terms of on a regular basis knowing what you're looking for? Because in my mind, I always say, okay, now if they were met with one of these risks or one of these threats, would they actually know what it is that was being looked for? Is this along the lines of some of the things that you're saying?
That is what those are the areas I'm concerned. That is why I'm saying some of these managers or leaders, they also miss the point. You have a population of 800,000 across the country. Why can't we change this population into resourceful by just impacting them? Now, you are talking about the external attack in terms of the terrorism. Yes, we have training like counter-terrorism on running. And even you can also go these things through, you can even learn through the online.
Yeah.
You see, depending on who is doing what and where. Therefore, for me, first issue, we must have a standardized curriculum and we take seriously the issue of training. And we must have our own institution. We should not bring confusion that cards should go to Kikanju. You are missing a point. I've gone across the globe because I'm also the president of African Private Securities because of the Kenya National, what we did in Kenya. So therefore, I normally compare notes. I do what we call page marking. In America, we have a lot of units of security, and the private security is one of them. In Kenya, somebody might begin talking about these ones are not supposed to be here. We need to bring the police conflict. Oh, they'll take over the jobs of the police. That cannot work. A private security officer will remain a private security officer, and our job is to complement the national security agents. There's no conflict. But my concern in terms of that, I changed the name from the watchman to private security officer. If you can see the act, the Private Security Regulation Act, I really did a lot of job contribution with the other stakeholders. Now, we are trying to bring civilization. Now, when you bring civilization, you need again to address the issue of the salary.
The welfare.
The welfare of the general welfare of the cards. You're going to be talking about a private security officer and you are giving peanut 5,000. And yet, 5,000 cannot sustain anybody in this republic with this life. So are you preparing more thieves through cards or you want to sort the problem?
So let's take a break on that note.
Yes.
It's 27 minutes to 8. Brother Isaac Andabwa is the National General Secretary of the National Private Security Workers Union. And he's also the president of Africa what?
Securities, it's called Uniglobal Properties. Those are unions that come from the securities industry. I'm their president.
You're their president?
Yes.
Sour.
Yeah.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Continue our conversation with Brother Isaac Andabwa, the boss of the Kenya National Private Security Workers Union. Andabwa, you were talking about now the welfare of the 800,000 or so people who work in the private security industry in Kenya.
Yes.
What are the main concerns here?
My main concern in the private security industry is the minimum wage. You know, the minimum wage is what the government orders for payments to protect the lowly paid work in a particular country. Now, I was a bit uncomfortable with the issue of increment of NSSF. Not because the policy is bad, but because the government need to do something fast. You cannot raid the pocket of a starving card, making so many deductions without first doing the rightful thing of implementing fast the minimum wage across the board. Something astonishing, what has given me a lot of trouble. In Kenya, we have a few foreign countries, for foreign investors. I mean, the investors, like, I don't want to mention the names, but there are few, around 5.
Who are in your industry?
They are in my industry, and they are the ones who are complying with the government statutory deductions.
So multinationals?
Yes.
Okay.
And out of the 2,000 security companies, the cards are suffering. There is no minimum wage. There is no overtime payment. There is no risk allowance, like nights. You see, those are very serious things that a particular government must listen and address. The minimum wage is a government mechanism to protect a lowly paid worker.
Yeah.
Then is there any need for me now to make noise about the Samsung order? Why is the government implementing the NSSF without first implementing the...
What do you mean implementing the minimum wage?
Enforcement. I'm saying
the government has already set the minimum wage. What's it right now?
It is not. It's not being enforced by the Samsung government.
So right now it's at 15.
15,000.
No, it's 16,000. As per the last cassette notice of his 1st May, it's supposed to be 16,005. Around 15.
570.
Yes, around
16,570.
16,570.
Yes.
So the government has already gazetted. This is the minimum wage.
Last year.
What is the government supposed to do after gazetting?
Enforcement.
How?
It's supposed to make sure every investor in the industry, to protect the workers who are working there, who are engaged, everybody pays that minimum wage. Because it's meant to protect the lowly workers. This
is through the labor officers.
The government, the person who announces this thing is the president. Yes, it's the president. So my problem with the NSSF, why I was concerned until yesterday. You see, you cannot apply law discriminatively. First, take care of the private security officer. Make sure that every employee in the private security is paying that which is rightful.
Okay.
Then, including overtime. You see, these guys work. Hakuna mtu anafanya kazi kwa nchi ya Kenya and committed kwa assignment 12 hours kama askari. Sisi wengine tunaweka koti hapo kwa kiti tunatoroka. Tunarudi time nyingine. Askari hawezi toka kwa assignment.
Na hawezi lala.
You see?
But brother.
Yes.
I thought part of the functions of a union were to not only negotiate but to also enforce these contracts that the worker is supposed to have with the employer. We mentioned the health sector. It is the unions, the union that looks after the different cadres of healthcare workers who push. Because if you're talking about the security sector, let me be specific. The government you are asking to enforce is the same government that pays its police officers as poorly as it does. And you actually imagine that they are going to enforce something that is within the ambit of, say, the private sector. Are police officers paid well? Let's start there.
Police, our brothers and sisters in the same profession, they are not.
They are paid terribly.
They are poorly paid.
Precisely. Now, if they're paid poorly, okay, now they work for the government. The government has not been able to pay. Let me say what I'm actually thinking. The government does not want to pay them better, okay? So, why would the government then help you, who is the head of a union of private security officers? Why would they help you?
That is a very wonderful question. You know, I have done a lot to the extent of even going to court. To an extent of even addressing the Ministry of Labor and being specific that these companies, I list them. Yes, they're the ones who are not paying in court of law. the same ministry sends officers to go and inspect the same companies that are paying 9,000. When you find the report of the labor officer, he's saying this company is complying in court. So there's a lot of impunity and corruption in this industry.
Right.
And that one I must speak it openly without a fear. Now, there's a problem. There is a problem again in terms of implementation, enforcement, and people being honest. You see? So, if I can go up to court, I be given orders that employers are supposed to do what? To implement. And the orders are there. Then I serve the employer with the orders. Then you find tomorrow a different story. And you know, I don't have instruments. I don't have instruments of power. My job is to make noise where the shoe pinches the employee. But now, that was before Fazul came in. But now, we have a regulator now in place. Now, that is squarely his mandate. And I think
the job of the mandate of the regulator, one of them is to make sure that there's compliance.
Yeah, in fact,
just the minimum compliance with the law.
Yes, in fact, is supposed to approach it in this way. One of the criteria for an investor to be cleared to do business, he must comply with the Article 41 of the Constitution, which talks about the workers' rights and the plight, and then the minimum wage, those governance. You see, so we are talking about the government first addressing the issues of minimum wage, then in NSSF comes number 2. True. I don't want to know about the other sectors, but me, I'm talking about the private security industry, because you cannot keep on rating an employee his pocket and without actually paying the requisite amount in monthly.
So this is why you had an issue with NSSF initially.
Yes, I was even going to court again.
Not all workers in the private security sector are even being paid the minimum wage that they're required to. But now the new regulation says that you shall pay more to NSSF. You were okay with it until yesterday.
I was not
okay with it.
I was going to court. Yes, I was going to court to say no minimum wage, no deduction for the private security industry. But after listening to His Excellency the President yesterday, he is willing to engage the stakeholders, like the union leaders, to address some of the challenges in the respective sector. And you know, the truth of the matter, the idea is noble. Like, for example, if somebody goes to Kakamega, where I come from, I'll not stay in a room permanently. I'm working. Once you work, you must exit the scene. Now, when you go home, you are at 70 years. I don't know how old is my brother here.
I'm 64.
You become a candidate of various medical institutions because of weekly body now is functioning, it's not acting. So when you are home, you are exceed the employment. At least this issue of pension is a wise idea. I support it 100%. But you know, you cannot deduct a starving person to the point of death. So as you keep for him the same money when he retires. So what we need to do, let's first address the concerns, the concerns of the Gazette notice, so that he enjoys the minimum wage. He pays properly over time. And even there are a lot of things, my brother, I don't know, you'll also invite me back. There are issues of even overtime. There are issues of environment where they work. So conducive, so decent, under ILO. So, medical issue about the private security officers. There's nobody who cares. Some of them collapses on their way going to a place of work assignment because of stress and depression. Whatever they are paid cannot take anybody to school, and they are human beings. They are workers. So we need to address the welfare of the workers in this industry, just like any other worker. You see, and respect them, because the role they are playing, the time they are spending on assignment, supersede any other employment in this country or in the world.
All those things that you've raised are issues that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
And you've said there are legitimate concerns that need to be addressed and they need to be highlighted. As recently as Monday this week, Brother Isaac Andabwa, the National Secretary General of the National Private Security Workers Union, was against the planned implementation of new NSSF rates.
Yes.
until Tuesday, the 14th of February,
Yes.
when he went to State House, and now he is fully endorsing that move. Have those issues been addressed?
I'm not fully endorsing it. My acceptance to that, after listening to His Excellency the President, I did moderation of myself because there was an opening. He directed the CS for Labor, and he gave us a link person in the name of Nonok to address the workers' issue in that arrangement. Therefore, what I need to do as a leader, I want now to engage the CS for Labor, because I've been doing that, going to court, and nothing happens. So I'll engage the CS of Labor as regulated by His Excellency the President. If she doesn't agree to what is rightly ours in terms of minimum wage, because I'm not supposed to request for minimum wage. Minimum wage is from the government. She's the only one who announced the minimum wage. If she doesn't comply or request, give a circle to every employer in the private security industry to comply with the minimum wage, then I'll still go back to court. Because the ultimate call for me is to stand in for the poor cats who are suffering, who cannot afford even a meal a day, who can't afford even school fees, who can't afford medical. So I'll be relevant, and I don't want to be relevant. Yes, I can't support something that is going to hurt my people. I cannot accept that.
How is it looking? And let's be honest about this, because who then was given the mandate to then address these issues? Because, I mean, it is clear where you're fighting from. How does it look in terms of what can and will be done? Because there's the issue of enforcement that you spoke of. Those who are employing people and not paying the minimum wage, how much can government do to make sure that happens? Because there are those who are accepting of these positions. You can say minimum wage is 16,000 shillings. Somebody says, well, I'm going to give you 10. Well, you say, okay, I'm going to take the job. So how do you work on a situation like that? And then number two, how is it looking? When we're looking at all of these issues, does it look like something that then can be streamlined, regulated, and sorted out?
I already gave you a solution. I said, we fought very hard. The union fought very hard to have a regulator into place. So you have a CEO who is supposed to regulate not only the employees, he's supposed to regulate the clients, the ones who consume our service, then he regulates the investor, then he regulates an employee. Because you cannot succeed in this minimum wage without first regulating the client, telling the client, I want you to pay this so as to enjoy this service. Are you getting me? And the issue of regulation is also good for the government, because 800,000 cards or employees in this industry, even they're not paying KRA, they're not even paying the NSF, they're not even paying NIGF, leave alone the NSF you're talking about. Somebody just prepare a list of 200 shillings and is paying 75,000. He rushes to the to NSF and he pays. Whereas he's not paying minimum wage. So we need to look at the whole issue holistically. My sister, you are talking about how can it be done. You see, that is a government order. How is a government order done? The government is supposed to protect its own order, not Andabwa. But when you do, this order cannot be complied with. Why do you issue the same order in the first place? For what? Because any order is supposed to benefit a particular group of individuals. Even the law. Kama kuna sheria ambayo lazima ilinde watu fulani, na hiyo sheria iko na ifanyi, kama hii chapter 6 of katiba ile ambayo tunasema viongozi lazima watu wakwe wana mambo ya criminal record and so forth, na tutumie hiyo sheria. Now we blame Yesu Kristo arudi. So there is something wrong with some of this leadership, me included. We do things opposite. Yes. So it is very simple, the government to say, in this industry, let me have the stakeholders. All of them, call the employers and investors, tell them we cannot continue in this manner. We are doing a lot of damage to the government because billions is being lost through KRA. Number two, the person on the ground, the front line in terms of security, that's a card, is all suffering, exposed to several untold sufferings. Then lastly, we have no option. You must pay that which the government required of. And to give you something else, if you want to know the importance of the private security officer, 2 years ago or 1 year ago, we had this of COVID. COVID, it was an outbreak. You know what the government, the employers did? They gave now the security officers the catches for taking the temperatures at the entrance. and you see, they'd not gone any training, you see, in relation to even the same equipment. How do you call it?
The thermosensor.
You see? Now we are being robbed doing some other assignment without even compensation and exposing ourselves at a watch of the same government. So this country is about to go for us all, but everyone for himself.
I have to ask.
Yes.
Look, organizations, whether it is those who hire private security,
yes,
those who are doing the hiring, they know the parameters within which they want private security to come and operate, isn't it?
Yes.
How do they ensure that, number one, the proper training is taken for them? Number two, how do they insist on these things that you're talking about, making sure that the minimum wage is applied, making sure that they have compensation when they're working difficult times, making sure that they have overtime when, they're asked to, and all of this? Those organizations that employ these individuals, whether it is a firm, whether it is a group of individuals, how are they regulated?
Since Kenya attained independent, we are almost at 60 after independent. And I'm telling you, my sister, since independent, we have never had anything to do with the regulations in the private security industry. This is the first time we are having that. And then I'm telling you, the part of the regulations, we have like an employer association called KISIA, led by my friend Okay. There is another one called PISIA, led by Mutaba. Yeah, and several others. What I'm saying, if we want to bring civilization here so as to actually do what is required of ourselves, why can't we have just an association of employers, like the Teacher Service Commission, then we deal with the government deals with the one say, in terms of employment? Because the issue of the clans is there. And the clans are different from one clan to the other one. Like, for example, you see the American embassy is a clan. You do know, I'm having a CBA with the G4S. I'm having a CBA with the KK. I'm having a CBA with the Wells Fargo, which some of them are doing it better than the minimum wage. Are you getting me? Yes. But I'm telling you, the criminals in this industry, they are Kenyan themselves, who are punishing their own.
So small, some of them are small startups, some of them are actually not small, they're mid-size. Employing many people.
There's nothing like small size. What we need to apply is law. Yes. Are you doing the right thing or you are doing the wrong thing? Because there's no need for you to talk about the mid-size. There is no mid-size officer, private security officer. When you hire an officer, you are hiring a person to do service. Yes. So we need to be able, from what you are asking me, what we need to do, I just want to request the regulator to put his feet on the ground and save the workers.
And enforce.
Yes.
There's a question that I've got to ask you because it's coming from Akwam, one of our listeners online. He says he was working for a well-known security firm in Nairobi as a guard. He enrolled for a degree course. It came the time for proceeding for industrial attachment. He requested his employer for unpaid academic leave. And the employer said, guards are not entitled to academic leave. You have two choices. You either work or you stop working and go for attachment. So he had to quit that employment and go for attachment. He's asking, surely, is there anything that...
You should be given my contact to reach me, because I don't think if that is going to be allowed, because you have what you call the 5 State of Employment Act, and the companies like G4S, like KK, they're doing good. Even the paternity leave, it's also there through our CBS. If your wife goes for delivery for 4 months, you are yourself again, you are given 14 days and it's being done. But I'm telling you, the problem, the elephant, is with the indigenous employers. Those are the people we deal with. And we don't care whether you are a small farm or whatever. What he must do or should do, he must obey and respect the law to save the workers.
Brother, you mentioned something about the Private Security Training Academy.
Yes.
Isn't there one that already exists? And if it does, in what form does it exist?
Okay. The trainings that we have, they are aligned to the companies. Like K has got one in Ngong there. G4S have others, individual trainings. But you see what I'm talking about?
But are those trainings accredited by NITA?
NITA.
Yes,
NITA.
the National Training Authority.
I'm not aware.
Because if they're not accredited, then
Yes.
they're not standardized.
I'm not aware.
Yes.
But to me, my concern is a different one. You see, I'm not talking about the institution per se. Me, I'm
You
talking
want
about the
one
curricula.
that has a curriculum.
What is relevant for us, and which should be a reference point and a standard. And again, you see, when you have a center for training academy, you will also have what we call a export labor in that manner. Because what the challenge the government is having is actually again having its people employed. So if we have a very professional training academy, we will also expect labor.
That's very true.
Yes,
But
and the government will earn money.
like you said,
Yes.
it's a very, very interesting
Yes.
conversation that we've had this morning, and we'd like to invite you again. So
Thank
come
you.
back.
Thank you, my brother.
The time is up. It's coming up to 8 o'clock. Brother Isaac Andabwa is the National General Secretary of the Kenya National Private Security Workers Union. He's been our guest, highlighting the issues of the private security and the private security sector and what it needs to
Thank you.
see.